Juveniles complete at least up to 70% of all community service court orders. In addition, court-ordered community service for juveniles or other criminals is usually related to the type of offense that they are charged with. As shown by the graph, the United States holds only 5% of the world's population, but holds around 25% of the world's prisoners. Partially due to state laws passed on federal and state levels, the U.S. prison population has exploded. As you can see from the graph, it has increased 800% since the early 1980s.
So, Officer Jorgensen, do you think that incarcerated criminals should be required to do community service?
I think it depends on the crime. If it's personal crime versus, somebody who's 19 years old and got a minor versus somebody who, got arrested for an assault or something like that. I think in law enforcement and the juvenile justice world, I think we do a lot of the penalty kind of fits on what the crime was. And I think that's important, that you have to weigh that, those two things.
What are some community services that criminals do?
You mean as far as types of things that are available for them to participate in? North Dakota, there's really not a whole lot. Because of the legal requirements for what they're restricted from doing, they're not allowed to do anything that's for a non-governmental service at this point. So any community service that we offer here at the jail, first of all, they have to be sentenced, which is actually pretty rare for somebody at the jail. Most people either get sentenced to time served or they get sent out to prison. Those that do qualify, we do various, we have to supervise them first and foremost. So we have connections with the West Fargo Police, West Fargo City Government. They do things like cleanup out at the fairgrounds after events. Public service projects that are directly related to a government agency of some kind. We've had them do things like clear out old file cabinets down at the courthouse, do landscaping work. They've helped do landscaping work around the jail facility. We let them do snow removal here at the jail for the sidewalks and fire exits, things like that.
If you do community service
If someone
in that
is
area,
doing community service?
yeah, are they noticed before they start it?
Do they get noticed that that's why the person's doing it? Not necessarily. So there's two different tracks here. Maybe I should clarify. At the beginning, the first thing I talked about on what opportunities we provide, that's only for people that are in custody, ordered to serve time in jail, and are doing community service as part of being in jail. Okay. There's also community service that people get sentenced to in lieu of jail. And in those cases, you would not know that they've been arrested. You would not know that. Now, the person that's coordinating that on their behalf may know that it was, those are usually for very minor crimes where there's no risk to the people involved or the community. Things like, I don't know, like a minor shoplifting or theft or drunk driving or something like that. So when someone's given community service, it's typically through the city municipal courts. They're not marked in any way. They don't have to wear a wristband or jail clothing or anything like that, so they would just report. It's really, I believe they're given wide latitude as to what they do, and they sign up, they give documentation from whoever so they can turn it into the court that says this is who I work for, like United Way or things like that.
Okay.
Okay. How often do criminals clean up garbage off the streets?
I'm actually not aware of anyone that's actually an in-custody program that does that in North Dakota right now. Over in Minnesota, they call that sentence to serve. It's an actual designated program. In North Dakota, I don't really deal with it directly because the courts can sometimes sentence people to do community service outside of custodial orders. In those situations, I'm really going to need to refer you to the courts to find out more what they do for that. Anybody that's just sentenced just to do community service, I know that there's a wide range of things that they can do, nonprofit work, things like that, where they can actually kind of get or volunteer work where they can get a time card for their services. But that's not something that we coordinate.
About 1.5 million Americans are inmates in state and federal prisons. The number of community service hours a person is offered is dependent upon the type of charge the court has given them. A Class D felony equals 500 hours, a Class E felony equals 400 hours, a Class A misdemeanor and an unclassified misdemeanor equal 200 hours both, a B misdemeanor equals 100 hours, and a violation equals 70 hours. In order to be considered for community service, participants have to go through an eligibility checklist. The courts have to review their legal history. Doctors review their stability in their mental and physical states. The participants have to know what they're doing and have to consent to the community service. The expectations of the participants are read by the courts, and the participants have to have an identification or photograph of themselves. To be able to do community service, you must be considered a suitable person, act appropriately in public, have facilities in your area to perform that community service, and if you're guilty of committing a violent or sexual offense, you are not considered in the slightest. Before participants leave the prison to perform the community service for the day, they need to know their goals, they have to have the workplace cite their responsibilities and necessities, and they have to sign a program worksite agreement before they head to work. Community service programs ensure that information regarding the program will be disseminated to the public. They also ensure that they will have an annual report on program operations, contribution to local community and criminal justice systems available to all criminal justice officials.
Community service organizes interviews with the participants wanting to partake in community service. This includes 1. A participant's eligibility for the program. 2. A review of the participant's legal history. 3. Physical and mental health and substance abuse data relevant to program participation, along with authorized or required releases signed by participants to verify this information. 4. Description of the community service program. 5. Participants consent to the amount and conditions of community service. 6. Expectations of terms and conditions. And 7. Identification or photograph of the participant.